Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. We got a good crowd in this evening. We'll just go over the rules quickly for the people that haven't been here before. I think I see some names there I don't recognise. So feel free to ask questions by putting your hand up, using the reactions button at the bottom. We're just going to have a general chat tonight. Or if you don't really want to say anything on camera, feel free to also type something in the chat window, and myself or someone else will pick that up, hopefully, and ask that for you. So it's just a general chat, just to say hello to everyone again, because it's been a couple of weeks since we last chatted, just to see if anyone wants to share anything, or if they've got any questions to ask any of the people here, or just a general, RV chit chat, really. So yeah, let's just take it away. I know Don's probably got a lot to say because he went to the Irva conference.
Yeah, I did. And actually, I was going to talk about, Des, I don't know if you saw that Volcano hit that I got. And if you wanted to, can you share the screen and I can show this thing on my Facebook?
You should be able to share it, Don, anyway.
Yeah, let me try it. Share screen, yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here's my Facebook page. So Mark Turner in the Rhine remote viewing practice group had a premonition on Wednesday about this Cumbra Vieja volcano that, he was talking about, he had this premonition like he needed to pack a go bag. A go bag, I never even heard about that, but it's like something you grab in an emergency that's got like some money and some like clothing and whatever, because you need to get out fast. And for some reason, he knew about this volcano, I think from his time with the Navy. And so he assigned this as a target, and I got stuff like upward movement and curving, turning, and smoke emitted and isolated. And the full session is here. My Facebook is all public, so you can just go take a look at it. Was it like only a half an hour thing, but like was talking about smoke going way up in the air and something coming down and then creating some sort of like structures. And then 2 days later, the volcano actually did blow. So I was like, Daz, I know you do this all the time. You're predicting the future and all this, but this was, I think, the first time I, accidentally did it. So I was like pretty enthusiastic about this. And the other thing was on a completely separate note, Mark was on a podcast. And at the beginning of the podcast, he held up a bag and he said, for those remote viewers, we're going to be talking about remote viewing. And if anybody wants to do a remote viewing session about what's in the bag, you can. So I did this session, and it was like, fast and furious. But at the end of my session, having no clue what this thing was, I just scribbled as a sketch these two things, and I have to say that looks like a hand and that sort of looks like something around. So this was like done in 2 seconds or less, these things, and I thought that was pretty amazing. So anyway, back to this you, Daz.
No, thanks for that, Don. Great for sharing. How did you feel when you got the volcano hit then?
I don't know. I was like maybe a little worried because there was this scientific study done that said part of the volcano was some sort of a wedge-shaped thing of Earth, which, if it shook hard enough, was going to slide into the Atlantic Ocean, creating a tidal wave that was going to hit the east coast of the United States.
Yep.
On the East Coast. So like my sister-in-law was like, what do we do? She's like, Don got another hit, oh no. So, I'm sort of glad that didn't happen. Really glad.
Yeah. Because we got ourselves at Crypto Viewing. I think we discussed this in the last program or something. We had similar data. Because we were all getting mushroom cloud type data in our RV sessions. So we think now that the month's over, we think that was most probably what we were getting as well.
And you didn't get any tidal waves, right?
I didn't get any tidal wave exactly, but the magnitude of data that I reported in my RV session and in some of the others was significantly more than has happened right now. Now, in the past, when I've done RV sessions and they've been predictive for catastrophic events, when the events happen, the data in the RV has always been of a magnitude higher than the actual event that happens. But at the same time, I kind of think to myself, there might be that one chance one day that it won't be. So I'm still I'm still keeping an eye on the volcano thing, to be honest. And on YouTube, there are about 20 live feeds of it that go 24 hours a day. So it's easy to see what's happening there. It's not over yet though, because they think it might go on for 3 or 4 months, I believe.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
So, Can I just say
there's
something?
actually.
Yeah. I'm following. There's a guy on YouTube. He's so cool. His name is Bushcraft Bear. And he says there's no talk about a tsunami at this point. Like, really, they're not even leaving the island. He said that it was a bit of hype that they even posted that about people trying to leave because they were just getting on a ferry to go to another island, you know? So they've the level of danger from the tsunami is, I don't think, really imminent personally.
Well, that's what I heard, and I certainly hope not. In fact, when I saw that the lava was starting to hit the ocean and just pour itself into the ocean, I breathed a sigh of relief, because that is, I think, cementing that loose wedge of earth, of the mountain or whatever, down, and I'm hoping it's just going to keep it planted there.
We can hope. But I don't know if you know this, but Gail Husik's group 2 years ago did a project as well, and they put out a statement 2 years ago saying that they saw a volcano eruption in the area that would cause a tsunami as well.
So there's still a possibility, perhaps.
Yeah, with all these things, you've got to keep an open mind, but don't take it to the excess. Use common sense because RV needs to be used with other information. You need to have your common sense head on when you're looking at all of this, really. But I would keep a slight open mind until we know it's all quieted down. And the other volcano that's just happened in Hawaii as well, literally a day ago. I don't know if you picked up on that one as well, but that one's going quite well at the moment. Just keep an open mind. I mean, I was on Project Camelot 2 nights ago with Kerry Cassidy, talking about the volcano eruption and our data that we got in RV. I didn't want to go on at first, but she badgered me, and she was starting to put some stuff out there, which I thought was a bit doom mongering. So I agreed to go on in the end to try to take that down a little bit. And she did send me some private emails afterwards that had been sent to her by alleged geologist people. And I can't confirm any of the emails, and I can't pass them on to you guys, but all I can tell you is that if the credentials of the geologists are true, then some geologists out there with high up credentials are quite worried about what's happening. But I can't verify any of the stuff, but it looked all... the credentials and what they were saying looked quite official and proper and knowledgeable to me in what what they were sending to Kerry, and then Kerry passed on to me. That's all I can add to it. Really, is I'm not sure anything's going to happen. I doubt if anything will, but at the same time, I'm keeping a slight open mind.
Well, that sounds a bit like the Courtney Brown Halley-Bopp comet. There was an astronomer, an anonymous source with a photo that nobody ever saw, and it
could quite possibly be. That's why I'm saying just use your brain when you're making these kind of analysis, really. But yeah, just keep an open mind, but don't take things to the excess, especially not based on RV data. Not on that alone.
So Des, suppose somebody said, well, can you go figure out now whether there's going to be a tidal wave or not? Can you remote view that? I mean, would you even entertain doing a front-loaded session like that?
No, it's too much. It's too noisy. I mean, It's a shame I can't get out of Dick and that and get them on right now, because literally 2 days ago or last week, so us at CryptoVision, we had to do the remote viewing for October's top news events. I did mine literally the last day of the month, so that what a day and a half ago, 2 days ago. It was incredibly hard though, because I had all, I'd just done interviews about the Volcano sessions from last month. Volcano stuff in news. I get emails sent to me on all types of conspiracies and projects. So to try to keep that noise at bay and think to myself, okay, what's the top news going to be in October, was incredibly noisy. It was incredibly hard to do. And I think Dick and the other guys had the exact same problem this month, because last month was such high energy with the Volcano hit and everything. It's very hard to keep a level head and not go off on flights of fancy, really.
So, and there's
hard.
no point in like asking somebody to create the target for you, and then they give you the target. You know what it is, right? That's just a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, whenever you're looking at the news anyway, a month or so ahead, it's always slightly noisy, because, everyone knows what, like when we were trying to do all the news events throughout the entire COVID period, it was obvious that we were all looking at news every day to see what was happening with COVID, and that would interfere with what we were getting RV-wise as well. So any noisy news period and then trying to predict on top of that is incredibly hard to do. It's really hard to get your mind away from your imagination.
Does it scare you a little bit that you have to do these month in advance things?
No, I quite like doing them. And I'm honest as well. Like when I went on the radio show with Kerry, she was hyping it all up, and I was being honest with everyone, telling everyone the stats. I know that my accuracy on news predictions is only 65%, because it's looking at the future. I mean, 65%'s not bad. It means, because I usually do about 10 predictions a month, so it means out of every month, 6.5 roughly out of every 10 of my predictions come correct, which is, I'm fairly pleased with that as a rate. But there again, it is 10, 20 or plus % less than my standard RV kind of hit rate. So I have to bear that in mind as well, And I know from my own data that when I do catastrophic events, the magnitude in the RV seems to be more inflated than what actually happens the majority of the time. But when you try to tell that to people that want to put out conspiracy theories and stuff like that, because they have their own agendas, then they don't want to believe that's what you're trying to say to them.
But good show doing it the last day before the beginning of the month, right? I mean, that the closer you get to the actual time, the better your chances, right? That is.
I think so. Yeah. You got more chance of being accurate, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's a noisy time. It's always, if the last year, 2 years has been a very noisy time for trying to do any kind of news type predictions, because of the pandemic, because of the the effect on the stock markets and all that kind of stuff. It's very hard. Yeah. But everyone should give it a go. It's worthwhile trying to do, and try to record your sessions. There are several places online where you can record your predictions as well, and so you can validate them at some point.
So that is like a kind of front-loaded target, right? You're going to do
every month. I'm front-loaded. I know I'm looking at the news.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I kind of just pick what I want to do, and it's just from intuition, really. I do try to say to myself, I have set ones like top global worldwide news for October, and then I usually do, because we have in crypto and we have people that are interested in markets, I do the top financial news, global financial news as well, and then I try to do the top global cryptocurrency news. So I have set ones that I do. On the odd occasion, I try to see what's happening in the UK or in Europe. Sometimes I look at other things, and sometimes, because it's all because news stories are generally pretty negative, because you never really get positive stuff reported in news. I do, on the odd occasion when I remember, set myself a top positive news story just to see if I can pick up anything nice to break the sadness.
Good for you.
But I don't. Yeah, that's only when I think about it. But yeah, so we are working front loaded on all those. Yeah.
I'm willing to give it a try. I think I'm going to give that a try. But honestly, after the volcano thing, I'm a little worried about it. Um,
Maybe
yeah,
we could do a group one. Get some of the people here to put it together. Maybe have a look at the news because we're a bit late now for October. Maybe if we do a Friday night chat group, look at then all see if we can look at the news for November, and we can discuss it on the first week of November or something in the chat meeting, and put all the sessions online in the Facebook group.
Count me in. Love it.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yes.
Hang on, I better write this down, otherwise I'll forget this though. So I'll put a notice up on the Facebook group tomorrow as well, just to remind people. And put the parameters there, and then so we'll all do the session. Maybe try to do your sessions. I'll put all the details on Facebook. If you try to do your sessions in the last week of October, well, find a place where we can put them online. Maybe I'll create a public Dropbox folder or something like that. Everyone can dump their sessions in there, and then we can chat about it. What everyone's got on the first week of the first Daz chat thing on the Friday of the November, and see what we get.
Put something in your notice that you're not supposed to like put your sessions right up there on the.
Yeah, no one should post them directly on Facebook or even say anything on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that could be fun. This reminds me, when I was at the IRVA conference, we had a game night one night, and one of the games was a team remote viewing thing where we had a whiteboard, and everybody in your team could put anything they wanted up on the board. So I was like doing the usual S2 type stuff, but other people were like drawing pictures and doodles and whatever. That was a lot of fun. It was great. So, these things, they can be used for entertainment.
Yeah. So while we're on talking about IRVA conference, how did that go? Give us a summary. Were there many people in attendance? And
yeah. So sort of like just a stream of consciousness here. I arrived the Wednesday before the first meeting day. Thursday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, Friday. So I arrived Thursday in the rain. The place looked like, wet wilderness. I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. I'm walking around and, the trees are soaking wet and I have to walk up a big hill and find a cabin that's cold. And, it was like terrible. So then the next day, the sun was out. It was bright. The place looked beautiful. I couldn't believe the transition. I was like, oh my God, this is actually pretty nice. So, we're going to breakfast, and, at breakfast, I'm looking at, is that Tom McNear over there? And then I'm looking over here. Is that Paul Smith over here? And my first reaction was put down your tray and get some pictures. So I did that, and and then shake their hands, and oh, you want to sit and have breakfast with us? Kind of let's sit. Oh, come on, Don, sit down here. So I was like, I was talking with these guys, and it's. You have to control yourself, right? Because you just want to babble on and on about questions about remote viewing, but at the same time, you're trying to be social, and everybody else is talking about their families and whatever. So I'm trying to okay, got to keep my cool here. All right, I'm playing the game here. So then we go down to the I don't know, the auditorium or whatever you would call that, the meeting room place. And there's Pam Coronado. She's she's a psychic detective, and I've taken classes with her as well. So, I went through the photo thing. Let's get some photos. And then they gave, an introductory talk about ERV. Now, that's something a lot of people don't talk about in terms of, how it's done and whatever. And it was Bill Ray and Pam. And, Des, I don't know if does anybody actually teach ERV or you know, is it?
I think David Morehouse does. I'm not sure if Brett does. There were several others that do. Angela Ford, who we had on, who's an ex Stargate viewer, she teaches a form of ERV as well. So
John
there are a few
Halosky
people.
does as well.
Who?
John Halosky. You had him on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he was a teacher. Okay. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting, and that like piqued my interest because I was thinking like, oh, if somebody's offering this thing, I'd really like to get into this. Pam was talking about doing 3-hour sessions when she does her psychic detective stuff. And I remember her telling me stories about how she would find herself at a location and she thought it was kind of strange because there were a bunch of beer bottles all piled up on the side of the road. And then after the session, she has a monitor. And after the session, she does the field work with the detectives and the police. She'll actually go to locations, and they were driving by a location, and she saw the beer bottles. Now, this is where it stands out in my mind. Apparently, in ERV, you actually see. And she said she remembered the beer bottles from her session, and she stopped, and they got out and they traipsed around with the dogs, and they picked up the scent, and they closed the case. They found the perpetrator. It was amazing. So if that isn't enough to want to make you learn this ERV thing, I don't know what would, but.
It was
I've
a
only
good talk. I liked it too, Don. It was, because that stuff's all in the archives, but to hear them bringing it out, was really good.
Yeah, I was. Daz, did you ever have any like ERV or bilocation things where you actually saw what you were remote viewing?
I've never done ERV, and in normal RV, I do see, but not often, and it's fast. It's like a quick flash, and then the rest of the time as I'm drawing it, I'm kind of almost like, I'll tell you what it's like. If you look into a bright light and then look away, you get that afterglow of the light. That's what I get. So I get a quick flash of the target, and then as it's fading in the afterlight of my vision, kind of thing, that's when I sketch it. So that's how it appears to me. I mean, other people might be different on that.
I'm surprised because if I have a vision like that, my mind instantly starts warping it into something that it likes or knows about. So I might see something for just a moment, and then all of a sudden it starts transforming, and God only knows what I could possibly report at that stage.
I mean, it might be something to do with everyone's makeup and what you do as jobs and stuff. I mean, my entire life has been doing art and creative stuff like that. So taking an idea that I quickly see as a glimpse in my head or in my imagination, and then transferring that into a graphic form, has always been fairly easy because that's what I've spent my entire 40-odd year career doing, really.
So, well, anyway, moving on. The next speaker that really caught my attention was Tom McNear's keynote speech about Mars, and that was just delightful. What he had done was he talked about I guess Ingo in the 70s did some remote viewing on the moon, and he discovered stuff on the moon, and he was surprised by it, and that's all written up in his book. But like in the 90s, he decided that he wanted to try this thing with Mars, and he chose a team of 5 remote viewers, one of which was Tom McNear, Ingo himself, and some other people who were undisclosed. And he sent them. They were living in different parts of the country, the world, and he sent them envelopes that said "Do not open until," and they all had the exact same moment in time, wherever they were on Earth, to open this tasking. He wanted them to all go at the same moment, and so they did. And the first cue when he revealed to them they were all on signal, and the first cue was essentially go to Mars. And Ingo was looking for something specific. He, when you see a lot of these Martian photos that you see from NASA and whatever, they artificially color the light that's in the photo, and it's kind of red. But Ingo apparently knew that the sky, I guess because there's like a lack of moisture in the air or something like that, is actually white. So he was looking, if anybody was going to be reporting blue skies like lakes and, stuff like that, they're off signal. But they were all on signal. So he sent them a secondary and then a third tasking. And then what Tom did in his talk was first, he reviewed what science tells us about Mars. What will, the red planet, it's dead, it has a little bit of, atmosphere maybe, there's dust storms and whatever, uninhabited. There's no face on Mars. No, that's, that's just, just a trick of the light. And then he talked about his matrix of all of the collected remote viewing data, which included Ingo's team and other teams. You know about this, Des. You're shaking your head.
Yeah, I've had the report for 6 months or so, and I've got all the other. We can go at that. You carry on. We can go into afterwards.
Do you have this thing? It'd be wonderful to pull it up if you do.
I have the video, and I also have Tom's initial Mars report from the 90s and stuff.
Okay, wow. Okay. I didn't even know about this. So anyway, yeah, so what he did was I think 17 of the 19 remote viewers saw pyramids on Mars. A number of them realized that the pyramids were huge, like much larger than the pyramid in Egypt. They were hollow, and they were used as a residence for inclement weather, as I recall. And there was a network of tunnels and other things. And then there was this curious thing about life forms, like that kept sort of like fading in and out. The way Tom described it, it was sort of like they were there and then they weren't there. Were they ghosts? Were they seemed to be real, but incorporeal, maybe not having a body. What was my thought about this? Yeah, I was like, they seemed to be forlorn. They felt left behind. The viewers were talking about these things, and they were like waiting for life to return to Mars. I think that was like one of the statements Tom made. And I asked Tom about this afterwards. I was like, is it possible that like, what we call a soul is sort of like stuck to the planet? It's somehow part of the planet, and it uses like biology to grow and advance and experience and whatever. And if you don't have this biology, then you have no opportunities. And it was just a fascinating thought. Is this the data, Des?
Yeah, I'm just showing some of the sketches. For example, these ones I know from the handwriting are Ingo's sketches of structures on Mars.
Wow. Okay, this is the first time I'm seeing these. I don't think Tom showed this stuff.
He didn't.
I'll show you Tom.
Going awfully fast there, Des.
Yeah, I'm getting to Tom's. Tom's is the most detailed sketch there.
Is there any way to access this, Daz?
Not at the moment. I don't think it's public at the moment.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I mean, I can ask him if it can go public. But it's not public at the moment. Most of the other stuff is, but that one isn't, and the video isn't as well. Irva members can look at the video of the presentation, but Yeah, that's not public either.
So anyway, those were the two things that really stood out in my mind. I besides the presentations, I had a lot of fun meeting people, the picture taking, with the celebrities, shaking their hands, asking them questions. Oh, it was great. Met a lot of very nice people, new friends, new Facebook friends. Just loved it.
What did you think of his phonetics stage 7 presentation?
Well, I tried it. I've never seen that phonetic thing before. That might be like a private thing that he only shows at conferences. I don't know, but I did try it. And I can tell you firsthand that I need a lot of practice in that to make that work. So
I was really thrilled with it because, my very first Urban conference, my very first thing, I didn't know what they were doing. And, I didn't even know what remote viewing, but I had been asked to come to this thing, and there's an envelope under the table, and there, everybody's doing a practice target, right? I said, what are we doing? He said, draw what's in the envelope. And I had words, which is basically phonetics, and, just little words like Colorado race. And I did draw a little sketch, but it was a Colorado foot race. So to me, what came naturally from the very beginning and all along's been more like auditory, that kind of thing than image.
Wow.
I'm not an image person at all. If I turn away, I don't know what any of you look like. I'm not imagey. So I was really thrilled to hear that, that avenue didn't get fully explored, because I think Ingo's an artist and most people are visual, but there's that piece that's not researched well yet, but it's there. And I got really excited about that.
it was pretty exciting. And
Those
I
of
guess
us that are auditory, that's our sense, how our subconscious communicates with us is maybe a little bit different than visual thinkers.
definitely. There was a couple of points that I do remember offhand that I think I can safely say here. And that is, Tom was making the point that sounds that you hear at the target location are in one category, and that is not phonetics. Phonetics is a different category.
Yeah.
So he brought up as an example, I think it was a Paul Smith session where he tried to use this thing, but actually he was just indicating sounds that he heard at the site.
Yeah, and he called it knowing, which is what, that totally, I didn't hear sounds Colorado, it is like a knowing. And he tried to define that for people in the talk, that it's a different, it's like it comes in words or syllables or, phonics, but it's not hearing in the same way. They're two, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that knowing part. That's right. He did make a point about that.
Yeah, and that's what it's like. And that's, to me, like that's the natural mode, So, and I know there's a few others that are like that.
Then there was another thing. Yeah, okay. The two other points. One was you have to cue yourself for this, and he was actually scrolling past a remote viewing session, and where he started the phonetics written at the top of the page was name ? And I quickly wrote that down in my notes. Okay, name ? And then what he started listing after that was nothing but phonetics. PH dash,
Right.
CH dash, and then sometimes these would like come together, and he was starting to getting clusters maybe, these were like a pool of things that maybe were going to come together somehow. So that's sort of like what I remember from that talk. It was an amazing talk.
It really was really, really good. When they put them, maybe they have already to like grant or view, I recommend it because it adds, we've got such a body of knowledge for the, the visual, the CRV, like Ingo taught, but this piece of it, I think is, there's lots of room for exploring it. Yeah. For anybody interested.
I would agree. All right, I'm back to you, Des.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Can I add something to this, please?
Yeah, go for it.
But I have had a target like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago from a friend, and the target was about the NFT, the arts which are making through the scavenger, wow, Jesus, the NFT collectors and NFT collections.
Yeah.
And down on the road, I have a drawing, because I sense of blocking and I sense chain. So I drew a chain, and I write the word block before that. And I'm wonder, because I don't know, but I'm wonder if this is kind of S7 or is something else, because somehow it was related to NFT, of course, and blockchains, and I don't know if it was related or not on this. I don't know, but I'm wonder.
I think the phonetics are a bit like how they teach in schools nowadays, where they get the children to break down the words,
in pieces.
Yeah,
Okay.
into pieces
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
make the words.
Okay.
But yeah, what Dimmy was saying then was correct for not many of you probably know about NFTs, but NFTs are called non-fungible tokens, and it's essentially where artists and digital artists mainly now, but any kind of artist, they create their artwork and then they get it recorded on what's called the crypto blockchain technology, and then it's recorded there for all time, and any transaction or any information that ever happens about that piece of art is encoded in what they call the blockchain for anyone ever to see. But the good thing about NFTs as well is that any artist that puts anything out there as an NFT, as these artworks are sold on the second-hand market, because all the data is encoded on the blockchain, they also can set and get a set percentage of every sale that ever happens of their artwork until the end of time. So it's really good technology. But yeah, it sounds like Dimmy got that quite well when she was trying to describe the artwork, and she actually got the words blockchain because it only exists because of the technology of blockchains.
Wow.
Yeah, so that would have been a great hit, Dimmy.
Have you ever thought about selling any of your remote viewing work as an NFT, Daz?
I just as a muck around, as a play, I did put some of my photography on there, but that was literally just as a test, and I put it at a stupid price because I didn't really want to sell it at like tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay.
I haven't done RV stuff, but I know I think Edward or Niam from Crypto Viewing is encoding all of their RV sessions on the blockchain, so that means it's recorded there perpetual. And yeah, it can't be fraud. It can't be frauded or anything. All the information about when the RV was done is there encoded in the system. So they're playing around with it. Me, not so much, but it would be a good place for example, for predictions, to put your predictions up. Everyone would have access to it. It's it'd be globally accessible, and it can't be frauded in any way as well. So that would be good.
I'd love to see your Beirut session. Put it for auction. That was
maybe. The thing is, I don't really do it on paper anymore. I have a couple of boxes here, archive boxes of paper RV sessions. I wonder what to do. I was just gonna, I don't know, either destroy them or just chuck the whole lot as a big box on eBay or something, saying anyone want to buy a couple of 100 remote viewing sessions, just to get them out of the house, because my missus is getting fed up with them being here. But to carry on from what Don was talking about as well, he was talking about Tom McNair's presentation. I saw the I wasn't there, but I saw the presentation on video. And Tom presented a little bit of Ingo stuff as well that I gave him, that I've been researching for a year now. And it's on a remote viewing session that Ingo did in the 90s. He did some work that carried on from the penetration book. And he essentially went back to the moon several times, RV-wise. Tom presented some of that. And I can show you the screen here of the next 8 Martinis, which is going through editing at the moment, should be out in a couple of weeks. And essentially the whole issue is going to be Ingo's today unpublished moon stuff, and a couple of his articles as well. So this is the cover for it at the moment. And the sketches, I don't know if you can see the sketches there very well, but they are actually Ingo sketches there. I might be able to get into a bit more detail for you. Bear with me a sec. There's several articles in here. It's all Ingo's work essentially in the whole issue. Where are them? Where are this? Yeah, here's the actual. If you can see them here, these are the actual. Oh, I hate this. They're the actual sketches that he did for penetration. Actually, they're on paper, so you'll be able to see those in the magazine. And then it's, as I said, it's got a transcript of his whole RV session he did when he went back to the moon in 1999, and he essentially, in this whole transcript here, so it's a transcript of a tape recorded Ingo remote viewing session, never before been published, where he talks about essentially having conversations with two different sets of telepaths on the moon. One set is there for defensive reasons, and one set is there for offensive reasons. And he goes into detail how long they've been there. You know, they're on a 40,000 year kind of cross the galaxy kind of attempt. You know, because their planet or something that had problems. It's quite complex stuff, but very interesting, and that should be out in several weeks, hopefully, as well. So
was that Ingo's? My memory, I'm getting old, but was it Ingo's Mars or McNear's Mars or Ingo's Moon, where it was like the consciousness were projected, they weren't quite there? Wasn't
that was the moon on Mars. That was the Mars talk.
So the moon, Ingo really felt they were there physically.
Yeah, he felt they were. I mean, he details it in the transcript that they were physical, because he talks about how they are, but they could be non-physical at the same time, because they could. One of the guys he wanted to talk to had to be transported from the other side of the moon to where he was.
Like there was a gatekeeper thing, wasn't there, in Ingo's?
There was something like that. Yes, it's because they had these telepaths that if they didn't like you and if you weren't invited, they could essentially, I don't know, find some way to boot you off, which was kind of interesting.
That's where I was getting at. It was like a non-physical thing.
Yeah, but Ingo does go into great detail about how these alien telepaths are led down in these like hibernation type sleeping chambers, and how they had these big metal plates in their heads and all kinds of stuff like that. But it will be out very soon, so you'll be able to have a look at that.
Read the transcript. Thanks, Des.
Okay, so moving on from Irvin, and does anyone there have any questions? Because no one has their hands up at the moment. Or I haven't looked at the chat. What's in the chat window?
Well, I have another question if no one is...
Yeah, go for it, Don.
Okay, so this came about when I was doing a remote viewing session, and it seemed like the more number of pages I was doing in my session, the more it seemed like I kind of knew what the session was talking about. And that started to bother me because you want to stay blind. So I was asking Angela Ford about this. How many pages do you do? And she was saying something, she gave me a very quick answer, like anything more than 10 is an AOL generator. And well, I know I've done more than 10 in my session. In fact, depending on how you sketch, you can easily eat up a whole bunch of pages. Do you have one sketch per page or multiple sketches on a page or whatever? But I guess the question I'm trying to pose here is, how do you control the growing need to turn everything you get as you go more and more and more into your session? How do you control that so that you don't go AOL? You have any ideas on that, Daz, or anyone, really?
Well, for me, it's just the CRV structure. You don't, because it's all about describing, not naming.
So the structure is keeping you from sort of escalating in your mind.
Yeah. I mean, you do, after 10, 15 pages, you are building up a kind of idea of what you think the target might be, but you have to be careful as well. Many times when I've done an RV session and I think I know what the target is, on feedback, I was completely off, but the target data is actually on. So it is a constant battle that you have to fight with yourself to not make it something. But you do, you could, because you are opening an aperture, you are building up all these impressions layer upon layer. You are kind of building something in your head of what you think the target is.
All right, so let me just ask you point blank. Do you get symbolic representations of the target when you remote view?
Not in CRV, but I add this extra stage on top of it sometimes, which I call freeform. And so I do my CRV session or whatever I do. Then I do a page at the back and I just write free or freeform. And then I just allow my mind to, for a couple of pages, to just express whatever it wants. And some of that data, because it's got no structure to it, it's just me writing sketches or just doing words that just pop into my head. Some of that can be a little bit symbolic. But that's not official CR. That's not official CRV. That's just me emptying the drain right at the end of the RV session, kind of thing, really.
Okay, all right.
But never in CRV do I get anything symbolic.
Can I try to just address that question a little differently, because that's fabulous information. But like, I'm in the learning stage, and I am a person who loves to be in the learning stage. And like, I was remembering when I was doing tarot cards and I was learning that, I was doing a lot of tarot card readings, and I wasn't seeming to make any progress because I was getting the same reading. And I find as a learner that possibly we get too much into the learning process and we overdo it. At least I do. I go nuts at the initiation stage, and I do too much. And sometimes taking a break kind of refreshes you just from taking a break. You don't need anything else but to get away and let the dust settle. And then when you come back, it's like sometimes insights have solidified and you'll make a sort of quantum leap in your understanding. Whereas if you had just kept going and repeating, you wouldn't have made that progress. So it seems to me like, for me, it's like a balance between, full on and then pull back and take a breather. And with remote viewing, I'm being really careful because it's hard work. It takes a lot of energy. And I don't want to do all that work. I want to learn as quickly as I can with as least work as possible. So I've made a few attempts, to do some big readings, and I feel like I've been moderately successful. And now I'm stepping back and I'm looking more again at all of the different aspects of the method, and taking a big breather. And I find that helps me.
Well, one of the biggest things, like a revelation when I started taking the CRV course, was this notion of taking an extended break, like an AOL drive break, where, you got this thing in your head, it's not going out of your mind, you can't get rid of it out of your mind. Time management enters into CRV. I never thought of it as time management. Okay, you have to apply time into this process in order to let this thing cool off. Yeah. That was a huge revelation. It really works.
Last month when I did the Mushroom Crowd RV session, it was so clear in my head that I couldn't get any other data for other than Mushroom Crowd for like about 10 pages. So I stopped the RV session. I was like, this is just ridiculous. I can't get anything. I can't get this out of my head. So I stopped it then, essentially taking a break, and then took a 2-day break and didn't come back for it for 2 days, and then redid the RV session. But the Mushroom Crowd data came back in the second one.
Wow, that's rough.
Yeah. It ended up being true in the end, a good prediction. But yeah, in that instance, I took a 2-day break. It was just like, it was so strong. I just literally, and you do in CRV, you write confusion break or break on the paper and go away for as long as you feel you had to. In that case, I felt I needed 2 days because it was just so strong as an image in my head that I needed to get away from it.
So this flew in the face of some stuff I guess I picked up initially when I joined the Facebook group, where people wanted to do their sessions as fast and madly as possible. Ideograms that were nothing but a line, because they drew the same line every single time. And this is like, whoa, there is time in this process. You need to use time. You have to know how to apply it into your session. So that was a pretty big thing for me.
Sometimes the ideogram fast thing's good. Like at the moment, I'm doing an experiment. Some of the people here are working on with me, where I'm trying to use ideograms for ARV work. So essentially, I'm asking the remote viewer just to do free ideograms. That's all I need, and then I'm playing with the ideograms in different ways of analyzing them. But like, for example, this month's one was to see if their ideogram was going more up or more down, then that would predict whether the target would go more up or more down in the feedback that I would give them. So in those cases, the remote viewer should be spending probably less than a minute doing the RV session that I need as the analyst for doing that. So that in that case, it is really fast, and it's good for that kind of work. But for proper, really detailed, specific information that a client or someone wants for a target, it is about time. You have to put in the time, and sometimes you get confused and you need a break, and it could be an hour break or it could be a day or two break. You just have to allow that.
This business about ideograms and how you draw them. A couple of things come to mind that I'd like to mention. One was just a post I put on Facebook, and I said, ideogram game. Think of a word, put your hand on a piece of paper, and while you're thinking of it, just doodle and see what comes out. No more than like 3/4 of a second. And I was getting some pretty interesting, like, symbolic representations of what I was thinking about doing this. This was so fascinating, I actually published this little, doodle set on my Facebook group. And a couple of artists gave it a try, and some of theirs were even better than mine. I was really amazed. So the second thing that comes to mind was I was doing some practice sessions in Angela's training course. And in one case, my ideogram looked like, it's kind of like a pi symbol drawn in the usual way that you draw a pi, starting from the bottom, going up, and then coming back down. And then in another session, it was almost like the reverse. It was the pi symbol going down and then coming back up. Well, the one where it was up in the air, they were in an airplane cockpit. And the one where it was written down in the ground was they were in a industrial garbage container. And it was like the reverse. It was like almost literally the reverse of the same symbol. One in the air, one in the ground. Wow.
Excellent, Don. Yeah, and I've expressed my opinion on this in the past in the Facebook groups, and that to great controversy, that I believe that from my research as a remote viewer and as a graphic artist, that there exists an ideogram and pictogram language that crosses all boundaries of human beings, time, and existence. It goes back to caveman paintings. Some people don't like that though, and they feel that ideograms never or show a graphical representation of the target, and it's always just a random squiggle. But I think there's room for both approaches, and it, like anything within life, you have to find what works for you as a person. I'm a very graphical, arty kind of drawing person, so my ideograms just have that artistic symbology. My life ideograms look like a little stick man. My structure ideograms look like a little square structure, and I don't have any instances where they're incorrect, so I feel no need to change them.
I was really surprised to see the emotional reaction to, of course, everybody's a little different. When that came up, and it was like, these people are going nuts that, we're not all clones. I felt terrible for Dex because, it makes perfect sense,
Yeah.
And
there's room for both approaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't even all speak English the same way. We've all got our little inflections, our little, how we pronounce any syllable. Everything is.
Yeah.
And yet, like you said, there's commonalities that are going to go through all of the.
You ask any person across the world to draw water in a second with a pen,
And they're
and
and
they'll
they're
all
going.
do a wavy line.
Yep.
And it's the same if you ask anyone to draw a life form in half a second, they'll draw a stick character. Same with a structure, they'll draw a little square, maybe with a little roof on it. We have these common symbols.
Yeah, except I've got to share this because it's just funny. Used to be a game that it came out forever ago, maybe before you were born, called Pictionary. And everybody would draw a stick person. But I had a friend who was bulimic. Hers were always round people. It was really something to notice, but that was her subconscious, her stick person was this. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all different, and I think, although CRV and the other ones are set methods and structures, I feel that you have to allow some fluidity in there for the individuals in some way. That's why when I teach CRV to, like some of the students are here tonight, because I don't have that many, but I allow them to choose how they want to do their ideograms. They could do it the straight CRV approach where you don't get any graphical information from what it looks like, or you can use my kind of approach where sometimes, not always, when you probe it, it is what it looks like. So if it looks like water, it is water kind of thing. Not always, but generally so.
This brings up the notion of ideograms that have multiple gestalts or aspects in them, right? You experience that, right, Daz?
Yeah, they change. I mean, sometimes when I'm probing land, it's not land, it's something else. Or sometimes when I'm probing one,
water
like
could
water.
Be energy, or it could be. They'll feel.
You just have to go with the feeling that at the moment you're doing it, the feeling you're getting when you're doing it and probing it. That's what you have to go on, rather than what it looks like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you decided that, okay, this half of the ideogram is water and this half of the ideogram is land? Let me just draw a dotted line in between. I'll do this one first and this one next.
Not on a single ideogram, where it's a consistent shape. I can see when I do a multiple ideogram, you can see the differences between as it changes from one bit to another.
Oh.
Yeah. So I can see, it might start off with a square bit with an angle and drop down, and then the drop down might go into like a human type figure, and then a squiggle coming off of it might show me that there's emotional energy. So they will look at that. It'll be just one continuous line with the pen, but I can clearly see a demarcation line between all three of them in my ideogram.
Okay, so let me get this right. Is the ideogram kind of like a piece of DNA of the Gestalt? Is it like got it all in there? There's aspects of like everything in that ideogram.
Everything you'd ever need to know about the target is contained in your ideogram.
It is. Okay. That's what I was thinking.
What you're doing with the next hour is you're just unpacking all that information that came in so fast. You're
decoding
that you can take it in.
Yeah, you're decoding it. Yeah.
Yes. It came in so fast that you didn't get it, and you spend the next hour kind of opening the petals of a flower to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're unpacking it. But each little pixel, each dot contains the whole too. So it's a bigger representation than that, but you even in theory could put a dot and your contact point with the target.
I relate to that dot theory because what I do is I hold my pen over the ideogram and I just keep moving it around, and like at one particular place, it's almost like that dot. All of a sudden this emotional content will come forth, and I got to start writing it down. Then I move down a little more, and then there's something different. It's really amazing.
You can do that with people's signatures too. And that's something Ingo mentioned to me once. Everything is, when something's put on paper, you can make contact through that. So it's what Daz is saying of, the image being the pictograph part, I agree with totally, but I also agree with you've got to put your pen to it and probe it and feel, what's coming and what comes when you first do it too, but to keep going back and reprobe, I think. You all do that, right? I'm just repeating.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Erica's had her hand up for a while. We should let her ask her question. Do you want to go ahead, Erica?
Oh, thanks. Actually, you just started a very good conversation about the signatures and probing those. was like, that's pretty cool. But my original question was, if any of you are familiar with the CE5 initiative from Stephen Greer, it's not about CE5, it's about actually how it's done. And I tend to think that it is somehow related to remote viewing. It's not, I don't think he's calling it like that. He's just doing through meditation, but how it was described and what I've learned is actually, I think it is some sort of remote viewing aspects that are in there. And we had, I mean, this forum had discussions earlier as to, are you actually there or are you just a passive viewer? If you are there, how much of you are there? And all of those things. What do you think? If you know what I'm talking about, the CE5 initiative from Stephen Greer.
Anyone want to answer that one?
Okay, so the only thing that I know about CE5 is you're supposed to have a group of people and a laser that you're going to point in the air, and you're going to use the laser as kind of like an invitation. And also you want to have a receptive attitude. Now, is there anything more to the CE5 that I forgot?
Well, they have this whole, it's not a methodology, it's meditation. And when how he described it, I haven't done it, but what I saw from the movies and from his interviews is that it's actual intention going up there. Okay, that sounds like remote viewing. You go up there. It's not like front loading, kind of is, because, well, you're going up there, and then the second part, as you said, when they show up, then you use the lasers to guide them, and also guide them in with your mind and show them where you are. So, and the connection that is made, that sounded like awfully a lot like what I've seen other remote viewers experience when they get in contact with some non-celestial beings, entities or whatever, or even I think when I had some, it's just odd because there's a connection, and it's part of the kind of remote viewing aspect of it.
It's similar, and I know that Stephen Greer likes to call it remote viewing, but it's not really remote viewing what he's doing, and all the stuff he's doing is is also front loaded and it's not blind as well at the same time. I also say you have to be a bit wary about what you're doing in those regards as well, with the contacting of possible non-human life forms. And I'm going to share my screen again here, and again, this is coming out really soon. Ingo wrote two what I call seminal articles on interacting with ETs and extraterrestrials, and both of them I'm getting reprinted. They were in Fate magazine in 1992 and 1993, and they are going to be in this magazine that I'm putting out in a couple of weeks. And all I can say is anyone that's interested in the CE5 stuff to read this really, because Ingo goes into why like the words here, like he thinks we've been psychically castrated, and not just by doing it ourselves, by killing all the witches and people that were intuitives throughout history, but he thinks that this may have been involved on a level from the ETs getting this done because they don't want us interacting with them on some levels. It's a seminal article, and I recommend everyone should read it really, because you should be very cautious about what you're doing when you're interacting with these non-humans, because there have been many cases of people, and we're dealing with someone on other forums that are having problems with some kind of maybe psychic intrusions and stuff like that. There are cases, and even Ingo recorded for a while that after doing some of his moon stuff, it took him several years to shake off the interaction that was kind of following him back from doing those kind of excursions. So I'm just saying, be cautious really. The articles go into it in a lot more detail. There's two of them in the magazine. I think they're really important. And as I said, in one of them in 1992, Ingo put out a call. He literally put out a call in Fate magazine saying to all the psychics in the world at the time, "Hey, look, we have a problem with ETs, but we can counter them with our psychic telepathic technology as well." And he invited all the people to write into him at the time and form some kind of cohesive group to do some kind of project to fight back. So I'm just saying, just be a bit wary about it, really. It's not really remote viewing, although he's kind of hijacked the name a little bit, and just be very wary.
Thank you very much for this information. I mean, I haven't tried it. I do not intend to try it. I was just researching it and looking at it and trying to understand it, what it is. Thank you very much for this information. It's going to be in the next 8 martinis.
Yes, it should be out in 2 or 3 weeks. I just have to get it finally approved by the Ingo estate and by the editor for any last bit mistakes and stuff like that.
I have something that's sort of ancillarily associated with this, and bear with me on this. I attended a lecture series about, it was a man who was in a house that was haunted by poltergeists. And these were the usual kinds of poltergeists that would open your kitchen doors and move stuff around and so on and so forth. They got to be quite annoying. They were destroying some things. They were throwing candle wax on walls. They were making symbolic things on walls in his car and so on. Finally, he moved. And his big concern when he moved was that they were going to follow him. Well, as it turns out, they didn't follow him, but a different kind of manifestation followed him. And this was, he described it as something that seemed to be climbing onto his bed, depressing the mattress down, drawing closer, saying his name, whispering his name. And at first he imagined these, he was a man, he imagined these as beautiful women. But then later on, they became less beautiful until finally they started becoming sort of ugly and smelly. They smelled like garbage. And I had to stop him right there. And I said, okay, you know what? This reminds me of something that I think it was John Vivanco told me about, maybe Prue Calabrese or something like that. She was having these ETs come to her house, but they smelled of garbage or dirty diapers, I think was the way he described it. And I said, you know, I'm starting to wonder whether these poltergeists might actually be some sort of like adolescent ETs or something. He thought that was a pretty interesting theory. You know, just thought I would throw that in there for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, thanks for that, Don. I mean, it's well known in abductee kind of literature that people that claim experiences with the little grey alien dudes, like Prue, that they have this weird smell about them. And, you know, some of the rumors, or not allegations, but some of the details that come out, testimonials and stuff, are that they are allegedly, they don't have any, they don't have a mouth kind of eating kind of system like we do as humans, and that they absorb nutrients and stuff actually through the skin, and they excrete the waste through the skin as well. So that may be why they have a certain kind of possible smell to them, I guess.
So wait a minute, that's very interesting what you just said. They like absorb by like physical contact. They would like contact you and like, you know, pull the stuff out of you.
That's how they eat, by absorbing through their skin, and they excrete the waste through their skin as well. I mean,
Wow.
there's stories, and you know, we don't know how true the stories are, but there are stories going back to the mid-90s from the alleged Dulce facility in New Mexico, of these alleged, and there are drawings of it, and I did have a video film of it at one point from a security camera, of these huge big alleged kind of almost like swimming pool type vats of liquid with and they claimed at the time, and I don't know how real this is, but they claimed that floating in the liquid was body parts from the mutilated cows that were, you know, gone, and the aliens would literally just like go into the water or into the fluid, absorb and excrete what they were doing as an eating kind of thing, and then hop back out kind of thing. I don't know how true any of that is, you know, there's no date on it, other than I did at one point, as I said, have a video film of the tanks and of what looked like alien type beings in tanks and stuff like that. But
Which facility in New Mexico? I hadn't heard this, and I'm
called
here.
Dulce, Dulce.
Oh, Dulce. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so they had alien. I'll look for. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, there was a video film. I had it in the 90s, and I had it on a website, and it was quite persuasive because I managed to get hold of the video film approximately 8 to 10 years after I first got the documents that had the drawings of these alien tanks and stuff. And it was, all this stuff was making the rounds. I would say probably in 1989 it started coming out, all this kind of stuff. You don't see it much talked about nowadays, but it was quite prevalent way back in the late 80s.
Thank you.
Again,
yeah, thanks, Des.
I can't confirm any of it, but when you see stories like that, and as I said, I got the video film, and then you read multiple books, of hundreds of abductees saying that they pick up this smell, and you see like alleged witness testimonies from autopsies and stuff, and they say that although they have a slit for a mouth, they don't have any mouth with any, throat, trachea kind of digestive system. It all starts to piece together a little bit.
That presenter, he also said that he was able to telepathically hear their thoughts or ask them questions and get responses. And, he brought up the notion of this legendary succubus, the female that comes at night and, attacks male subjects. And I guess there's a male equivalent to that too. But
yeah, if you're interested, Don, you should read the book Passport to Magonia by Jacques Vallée. It's a classic because he talks about stuff like that, and you can actually track, or if you read up on some of the early fairy tales, where you have these little like elf-like creatures that abduct people, take them into the forest, and sometimes leave a doppelganger or something in their stead and stuff. You can kind of track those back to possibly being very early abduction kind of stories with little creatures.
Yeah, this is fascinating. This stuff is all starting to come together. It's all coming together.
Yeah, it's a great book, Passport to Magonia. Sorry.
All right,
Magonia with a D.
Magonia, I think, Magonia. Passport to Magonia. It's a classic by Jacques Vallée, and of course, we all know that Jacques Vallée was, he was trained in CRV. He also worked at SRI. He's still involved in UFO research today, and he just brought out a brand new book called something Trinity, about a Trinity, another Roswell type crash that he's uncovered that happened a few years, I think, before or after Roswell. But yeah, Jacques Vallée's been very interested in this, and it's a very interesting book. I think it's just been re-released because it's such a good classic. And there's one place online I know that you can get a special edition hardback signed Jacques Vallée copy for, I think, $70, which is well worth it as well.
There's one other point I want to make on this, and that is he was, in this telepathic contact, and he asked them, "Are you doing this only with me?" And they said, "Oh no, we have we go all over. We're all over the place." So that sort of left me with a feeling like, and I mentioned this in the meeting, like they're kind of farmers and we're the honeybees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a pretty weird feeling.
No wonder they're stinky if they're going to everybody. Ew.
That's something I've wondered about and I've wondered this for years, is what, if this is actually happening, if the abductee thing is a genuine phenomenon, I kind of think that it might be. I'm kind of wondering, because I've never seen any of the abductees in their testimony describe any kind of process where they go through some kind of cleaning process. I wondered, is there a possibility that they could give us viruses, or could we give them viruses in some way? Is there some kind of thing going on there that we don't, that we're not aware about?
Energy or psychic, gooey, icky stuff. I mean, other people's stuff, it seems like they could easily pass it. Not necessarily a physical virus, but
it's it's
Yeah,
a
they're
very
full of
interesting topic,
crap.
and with the human and animal mutilations as well, because I don't know if you know much about this, Don, but there are quite a lot of reports about animal mutilations, but there are also some pictures and some reports of human mutilations out there as well. So there are humans with their eyes cored out, their tongue missing, their internal organs gone, all that kind of stuff as well. So that's why I say you have to be a bit careful if you are thinking of talking to someone and contacting some of these things, because we just do not know what's going on.
Well,
And some
look
of
what's
them I felt
going on here. Look,
Well, I
look
think,
what's going
as you said, they're looking at us, and I've had this in RV sessions. They're treating us like we treat our animals. They're
Yeah.
farming us like we farm.
But with this thing that they can sort of like phase into our dimension, do what
Yes.
they need to do, and then phase out. That's the thing that really gets me.
Yes, and I've done quite a lot of RV sessions on it, and literally we were talking about this. I don't know if you were here in time, just before you come on. There's a video that Crypto Viewing have just put out today called The Alien, and for the first time in 3 years on Crypto Viewing, we had a proper ET stroke UFO target that was set, and it was I think the feedback and the target was an image that was sent to Dick of what looks like a grey alien type thing with damage, so it looks like there's a bullet hole in it or something. So that was the target that we all worked, and yeah, we came up with some really interesting information on that. I don't think it's public though. I think it's only to paid members at the moment, but I might be able to get it put public at some point.
No, I'd be interested in that, certainly.
I mean, I went into huge detail on it. Yeah, I went into the internal systems of the life form, the backbone systems. It was really weird because I was looking at the hands, and I could see that, and I drew drawings of this. I could see that some of the appendages had a joint system that could actually swivel 360 degrees on their joints. I was trying to draw this joint system that could swivel 360 degrees. I was getting a bit freaked out by it. I was like, what the heck's going on here? What am I drawing?
So what are theirs? Like body have no bones then? Is it like just like a gelatin or something?
If you bear with me a sec, I'll see if I can pull up the picture. I did have it here a couple of days ago.
See, that sounds like an interdimensional joint. He's in a couple dimensions doing that, I think.
Well, a ball and socket joint with no tendons would do that. I mean, we're used to tendons.
But what about the skin? The skin's not changing. There's a couple dimensions of a lot of degrees of freedom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Whether the skin stays put and the joint was moving inside it, or the skin moves.
Yeah, just inside the skin. Yeah, possibly.
As the video's coming out today, I don't think they'll mind me sharing this quickly with you, so I'll share it quickly. Let me move this out of the way. So this was one of my RV sessions on the project we did called The Alien. I didn't know this, and it's the first ET UFO thing that we've officially done in Crypto Viewing in 4 years. So I had a life form that was preserved, and then I went into sketching it, and I sketched this weird kind of creaturey thing.
This is the one where you're trying to get the swivel fingers? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this was it here. I was talking about these swiveling joints. So I was drawing its hand, and I could see that these joints internally could swivel in a weird way.
And you got webbing on the...
A little bit of webbing, yes, on the hands.
Boy,
And
your
I got here.
sketches are
The
getting
hands are
pretty good,
different.
yes.
Sorry?
Oh, your sketches are getting pretty good. I mean, look at the detail in this.
Yeah, that
Tablet.
graphic artist guy, man.
You're indicating multiple, movement directions and everything.
Yeah. Tablets are good because they allow you to, add a bit of color to it. And that's the sketch I drew of the. It wasn't quite right though, and I made that in a note. It says not quite right. This is too human. It needs to feel slightly less human. I just couldn't get the picture of it quite right. And then I was trying to do the bone structure, and I couldn't get the head quite right.
Did you feel bones in the fingers? Do you remember?
Yes, I think there are bones in the fingers, but they were long, huge big hands. They literally got long, really long, kind of weird hand and finger things.
Can I just ask you, when you're drawing this thing, are you like drawing a stroke and you think, no, that's not right, and erase it, and then draw another one, maybe a little bigger or a little rounder or whatever? You know, is
I
it
don't no, not really, because you can see how many times I've gone over the lines there where where I haven't got it quite right. I was trying to, so in the end, all I did was write a note by the side of it saying this isn't quite right. I know it's not quite right.
Mhm.
And here as well, I said it's got to be thinner. All this doesn't feel quite right. It's a bit too, I don't know, a bit too hourglass. The creature was more thinner and it was more animal-like, bigger eyes. So I wasn't quite getting it right because I only had a quick glimpse of it for a second.
These are fabulous.
Yeah.
And here as well, like I'm talking about the torso here, and I say it's thin, bony, different cavity, and they have fill different organs, and the organs are triangular arranged. It's got 3 organs, but they're arranged in a triangular configuration. And I said here the spine's different, it's twisted, strangely connected to the head area, not as full range of movements as we have as humans. So I was going off on all these kind of weird kind of stuff on this alien type creature that you'll see in this video. Well, you may see in the video that's just come out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Fingernails look wicked, Daz. They're scary.
Yeah, I mean, as Ingo says in his things, there some of these creatures are scary. Some of the things they're doing are scary. We're not. I don't think we should paint it all that way. Because there are some encounters from people that are spiritual and do seem to be beneficial. Seems to be like a scale of things that's going on. There's some that got good intentions, some that got bad. But if you're going out there like in the CE5 stuff and just throwing your consciousness out there to the wind, you don't know who you're going to be contacting. To be honest,
yeah.
Oh, let me add some more people in. So anyone had their hand up? I thought I saw someone with their hand up just now. Was it Matt? Is he not want to ask the question anymore? We can't hear you, Matt, for some reason. No, definitely we can't hear you still.
Your headphone, your setting might be computer sound, and you've got headphones on that. You have to change your input in the setting, maybe.
While he's doing that, does anyone else want to ask anything or share anything?
I have a question because I thought it was open chat. I've been talking. We're supposed to raise our hands to talk. Is that how?
That's okay. It's
I'm sorry if I've been rude.
No, you just go for it.
I'm a mute now anyway.
Okay, Matt's joining.
Daz, I have a question. I did write it in the chat, but you probably missed it. It's going back to the ideograms. When you had your mushroom session, I've got another question about that as well. But when you had your mushroom session, did your ideogram have any similarities to the mushroom? Because you were saying that sometimes the ideogram has the clues, it has graphic clues or pictorial clues of.
I'll just see if I can pick it up.
That'd be great.
August, September news. Is this it? Because to be honest, I don't remember off the top of my head because I'm doing. Okay, yeah, here it is. I'm doing so many that I forget what I've done, to be honest.
Okay.
Okay, so let's share the screen here. Okay, can you see that okay then?
Oh, right, yes.
Okay, so yeah, this is my session. So this was done in the end of August, looking at September for the news, which is said there at the top. And what I usually do first is I don't have a set idea of what I'm looking at first. I literally just let myself do a couple of ideograms just to see what turns up. And this is an ideogram which is, it's got no real defined shapes. So for me, it's just like energy. That's what it showed me, that wild, open cyclic energy, which I AOL as a storm at that point. I felt it was large over water and over land. And then there was a huge cloud, a ring of white, fluffy, angry, grey rising clouds, miles wide. And of course, that gave me the AOL of an A-bomb at that stage. But I'm lucky I could put that to one side. So this ideogram here, again, it's just more energy in structure. So it's cyclic, energetic, moving, rotating vortex of energy. Above land, very high. affecting both up and down. AOL of USA here. I think that came from the A-bomb, to be honest. And then, it expands. So there's an ideogram here that moves into a sketch of what I was trying to see. And then I wrote here on the next page, I have to sketch this to try to get rid of it because I just couldn't get the image of it out of my head. So I, literally sketch it to make it go away kind of thing. And then there's more data, and I think I might have done some more sketches later on. I can't remember. Maybe I didn't on this one. No, because this might have been my second session, actually. No, that was my first session. And then that's when I took a 2-day break, I think. Let's see if this comes up. Yes, because this is what I did 2 days later. I came back 3 days later, I think, right on the end of the month. Because I thought I'd try to get rid of it. But it came back again instantly, lots of energy. Again, another ideogram here, which is just like lots of movement and energy. And it's got here explosive, release, lots of impact. Same ideogram there, coming downwards with lots of release of energy. Which then ends up to me doing these sketches of like a mushroom cloud type event. Yeah, so that's it really. Yeah, so my ideograms were all, it looks like all energy based.
I mean, you can tell you're an artist. Wow. My second question is, when you were tasked with this, were you given the year September of 2021?
To be honest, we're not really given it. I mean, we are given a task, but all we're given is a note in an email that says, "Don't forget, you've got to do your news predicts for next month." So there.
All right. Okay.
I don't think there's a tasking number or anything. I literally just make it up, and I end up using the date of the day I do the RV on. So on the last one I did there was the 31st of the 9th. So my number for it would have been just 3109.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, did you task yourself with this?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Niam's here as well. He does work crypto viewing.
Okay.
How do you task yours, Niam? Do you just make up a number for your tasking number for it?
Yeah. Depending on, like, sometimes I'll do some ERV. For that, I'll just set my intention to like major news events. But when I do like a whole paper session, I'll just use a random number generator and write myself a tasking, like, we'll perceive the top news events of September or whatever like that. Yeah.
Right. Niam, when you say for September, is it a possibility that it could take you to September 2022 or 2025? This is why I asked. By writing the date, the year as well, it focuses your subconscious on the actual year. Because what Daz did with the mushroom, if there wasn't a year, is there a possibility that this could happen next year, September? It's just a hypothetical. Because when I saw your mushroom, Daz, a couple of weeks ago, somebody here sent it to me, messaged it to me. My first thought was, holy crap, we're going to have another Chernobyl. And then we started having the volcanoes. Hypothetical question, what if there wasn't a volcanic eruption in the Canary Islands, but all four of you drew a mushroom? What would you have said for September? What would you have thought?
I would have personally classed it as a miss. But I know that Dick, I don't know if Niam does as well. Dick allows himself several weeks after the event, because Dick's had the mindset that when you're doing RV, and especially when you're looking forwards, the RV process doesn't know when one day, week, month ends. So you have to allow yourself a little bit of leeway there. I'm a bit more strict. Once the 30-day windows or 31-day windows over with, I'm like, I cut it off and say, right, that's it. If anything happens, I would have been off target.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I put the year. I do write the year when I do the tasking, but I'm the same. I would say it's a miss if it's not within the month. And if something does happen that I saw, whatever, it'll be interesting. It's interesting to look at, but I would not count it as a hit, really.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Niam, I got a question. You said you do a little bit of ERV before you do your session. Can you describe what that process is?
Yeah, I'll just I sometimes I wear I have like got one of these mindfold thingies. So sometimes I'll put that on and put on the theta tones, and I'll just sit back and let the images start coming. And depending on how strong they are, like sometimes I'll see something really clearly. I'll actually like use that as the anchor point and then start probing and collecting more data, like kind of like transition it into a paper session sometimes.
Are you
But
recording this in like a voice recorder, or how are you remembering these things?
I know I just have I'll have my paper or my tablet there. So after I see something, I'll kind of take it off and sketch it out, and then have to go back down into it again. It sometimes I'll try and remember a couple, like I'll see a couple images and I'll try and remember like the last three and then draw them all out at once just to kind of like stay in the flow. But yeah, I've had some really good success doing it that way. But
Right, cool.
I'd say my best successes are doing like a straightforward paper session. That's when I've had the most consistent hits, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Hey Matt, do you want to try asking or sharing your stuff with us again?
I'll try. Is it working now?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Yeah.
Thank God. I've tried to ask so many questions this evening. I just realised my microphone was clearly not working. If I can ask quickly about ideograms again, I know we've gone through it a lot, but when I've subscribed to crypto viewing since a few months ago, and I've gone through like a lot of the sessions. When you were talking about your ideograms, it seems as though like you combine a lot into one. Did you always do that? Because like as someone who's new, I'm drawing like lots, you know, and I don't know. When I saw your sessions, it was like this continuous whirl, and does the whole kind of initial gestalt, or does that initial kind of thing come into your mind as the pen doesn't leave the paper? If that makes any sense.
Yes, but you have to bear in mind as well that I've been doing it 24 years. So what I do now is not what I was doing when I was learning. Ideograms, because it's a personal language for each of us, they change over time and they change constantly. Mm-hmm. And you know, as I'm doing, you know, like the ones I just showed just happen to be like motion and energy ones, so that they all look like they have that kind of weird kind of feeling about them. I'm just going to see if I can put up a more modern one here. I don't know if I got any here actually. What month are we in now? We're in October, aren't we?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find something for April news or something to see if I'm just trying to see if I got some different ones to show you really. But for me, yeah, they've changed over time, and I can show you this one here actually. I kind of know what mine mean to me as a person. So if I share the screen here, so this was looking at, as it's got a key at the top here. Yeah. Move to describe the top global news of May, and you know I got my coordinate there 3009, and it goes down into this shape. That's two ideograms there in one. But I know what they are. I know that this loop with a dang for me usually involves a life form. Right. And this weird motion there would usually involve some kind of, because it's on top of a life form, it's usually some kind of energy, kind of motion, kind of feeling to do with that life form. So yeah, motion and energy and their emotional kind of feelings and pattern.
So do they all come in at once, or does your hand just not leave the pen and paper?
That was all one continuous line. That whole thing there is all one line. Look, nothing. The pen hasn't left the paper once.
Okay.
That one's energy there again. This goes slightly different. You see here, because when I start looking at the cryptos, and cryptocurrencies, my ideograms automatically change, and they don't take the form of structures, land, or anything like that anymore. The moment I know I'm doing a crypto, the ideograms morph, and then they try to mimic how the market flow of that crypto is going to go over the next month. So they change again. That's what I'm saying. Ideograms change all the time, and this ideogram here, I've never done an ideogram like this in my life. And the pen hadn't left the paper once, and it's got these really wild up and down swing movements. Really, and I transcode this as some really energetic, strong moves swaying both up and down for Bitcoin in May 2021. Yeah, I mean, and this one here, the financial news, this was even weirder. I've never done anything like this before. This looks like it might be one of my life form targets, but then I had this, and my pen did obviously leave the paper at that point, and I did this, which made me think instantly, oh, well, this is trying to tell me it's the dollar and it's going downwards. So it's a bit like, for me, it's half visual, I would say, and half feeling. But over a long period of time, when it changed over 24 years. When I first started doing this, it was just single ideograms or one big multiple one, which I subdivided and then decoded. But we're all different. We all do it slightly differently, so bear that in mind as well. What I do or what someone else does might not be right for you, because it's an individual language that you're trying to develop between the internal part of you and the external at the target to communicate.
Additionally, whilst you were talking about the future predictions, when you first started doing that with the crypto viewing team, was there, did they give you a number, or is it always, okay, every month we ask you to look forward? I suppose I'm more interested in the tasking. Was there initially a kind of a target which specifically stated the viewer will go forward 1 month and look back at the major news events?
No, it's always been I think just look at the news and tell us what you get. And all four of us, because myself's doing it, Niam's doing it, Dick's doing it, and Edward's doing it, and the host Dennis, he also does it on the side, but he doesn't present his stuff much because he's in training. All five of us use a complete different approach, and we all look at different things, which can be confusing at times, and it might be best if we all came to some kind of consensus and said each month we're all going to look at crypto news, we're all going to look at Bitcoin news, we're all going to look at top news of this thing, and so then we have a bit more of a consensus that we can look back on. But no, at the moment it's all just go off and do your own thing.
Or if in general, just if the target was set up the same way, as though it would be for example, you say that Dick will say, well, it could be 3 weeks later than the month he was looking at, or something like this. Yeah. That maybe it would, I don't know. And then this of course brings up loads of other questions. Do you guys on the team have have conversations about what is time, for example? What is your definition of time? Why is it relative? Why does it change based on force and things like this? Or what is your actual definition of what time is? And therefore,
we have had those chats back through the archives. Not as many as we should have, but we have had them because none of us really know. And I think, to be honest, because we all come from different schools and different schools of thought on it, I think we probably all got different opinions on it, and sometimes we've probably had slightly heated arguments about some of this as well, because we are all different.
Okay.
To be honest, I've been doing this 24 years, and I think you can, if you ask Joe or if you ask Paul or anyone, the people involved, Lynn or anyone, we know nothing about what we're doing. We're all we're only young. I've been doing it 24 years, but I still class myself as a student. Every time I do a goddamn remote viewing session, I'm learning something new. An ideogram comes out and you're like, where'd that come from? What does that mean? Or a word, you get a word that you don't use in normal language. You think to yourself, where did that come from? And like with the mushroom cloud thing, when we all got the mushroom cloud together, that was, I just wish we had the camera on, but we didn't, because I was literally there going to Niam that I was going, I'm not going to present my information this week. I did 2 sessions and they're rubbish. All I kept getting was this goddamn mushroom cloud. And everyone's mouth literally went for 5 seconds, and they were all like, oh my god, we got mushroom clouds as well. And it's just everyone's panicking, going, oh my god, we all got mushroom cloud. So even after 25, nearly 24, 25 years, it astounds me every time we do this. It's amazing how it keeps changing and morphing. As I said though, I think it's a bit of a Joker thing going on there. I think it's almost like the RV process to me is alive and kicking, and it likes to when you think you've got it down pat, it likes to kick you in the ass and say, no, try again.
And sorry, I'm going on a bit here now. There's a lot of questions I would like to know about how you guys, as more advanced remote viewers, talk about the practice of doing it. For example, Edward produced like a lot of content about his kind of fixation with trying to be able to tap into a target for a very long period of time, or having conversations with Paul about how to get through the linen or the threshold of awareness and things like this. I was wondering, like, when that conversation came out, like, has anyone tried microdosing, for example? That a lot of people say, for example, certain substances will change your conscious awareness, but I wouldn't say that, you know, taking DMT or something would be great for remote viewing. But has anyone ever tried like microdosing, let's say, or to try, or things like that? There's countless questions I have to ask.
I haven't. I've tried RV drunk and I did quite well on vodka.
I haven't, but I've heard people discuss it, Matt. So the answer would be yes, people have tried that. And I can't speak to their results, but there are people that.
I don't know. Niam, have you tried taking any drugs with RV?
I've done mushrooms, but not while RVing or anything like that. No.
I've got a friend who did a session on mushrooms, and it kind of made the RV data just like mushrooms make real life. It just made it more engaging and exciting. So it led to undeclared AI. I had a great time, but it didn't make me like magically immune from AOL.
Hence why I kind of asked, like, not drunk, not fully on drugs, just the micros. I thought if you would go to a certain limit, then it would ruin things.
There is a study on this. I think it was forced choice site. It wasn't like free response RV, but they got like shrooms and weed and a control group, and they found that like the weed group did slightly worse and the shrooms group did slightly better. But it basically like people ask this on the subreddit about every month. Someone comes on and says, "Can I take loads of DMT?" And I'll be like, and it's like, no, you can't. You have to practice. Stop trying to cheat by taking mushrooms.
There's an interesting book by Andrea Puharich. He did a bunch of stuff with Uri Geller, but in this book, it's called Beyond Telepathy, and he talks about not psilocybin mushroom, but a different mushroom, the Amanita muscaria mushroom. And he says that does, increase psiability. And there's actually some video somewhere on YouTube where they're actually doing trials. Like he's doing the whole hidden Zener card thing with people on mushrooms. So you could look that one up.
I don't even know if that one grows here. I have to add it to my bucket list.
That's a rare one. Yeah.
I've seen that one. That was on One Step Beyond, Liam. And it was like John Newland, the host, was under the like magic mushroom or something like that. And he was able to draw, hidden photos. This was actually, I guess, the very first remote viewing I ever saw. That was in 1957 or something like that, or maybe early 60s. But Andrei Puharich was the guy. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, I got talking about ideograms. I got this. This is a picture. I'll just share this for a second. This was a session that I did. It was the death of Princess Diana. And one second. Like speaking of how ideograms can like change and kind of like develop over time. It's like you never really know how it's going to come out, and a part of it I think is like the more you do, it's like the more you're going to get familiar, and the more types of targets you're exposed to, you kind of like surprise yourself, like, oh wow, what was that? So this was I did. You could see it's like a life, you know, the life ideogram and then literally like a vehicle. So, you know, I think the ideogram can pretty much do anything, you know, it can represent anything. It's just how flexible are you with it, you know, getting familiar with kind of like how it's produced. You kind of get a certain control over it, but it definitely develops over time. Like there was definitely a point in my remote viewing where I began to notice like, oh, this symbol, this ideogram always keeps popping up, or, you know, whereas it wasn't like that prior to that point. So it's really just like self discovery. You just keep plugging away at it.
Is that okay, Matt? Does that answer all your questions for now?
Yeah, as always, I could probably go on all night, but yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Sasha, you've had your hand out. Would you like to go ahead?
Yes, hello. Sorry, I don't have my webcam set up today, so it's just a black box. I just wanted to, I guess, address two things, ask about two things. So one was this idea of the words that pop up that are outside of your own kind of personal lexicon, right? I really think that that suggests something interesting. And I would like to see more people put their thoughts forward on what does that tell us, right? If the mechanism is using words you're not familiar with, then where is it getting the lexicon that is presenting to you, right? It brings me back to, I don't know if I mentioned this in the Discord chat or if it was on one of the DAS chats, but the idea that there are some coma victims who wake up and they speak a different language, or they speak with an accent. And I've poured through a few of these articles, and what I found is most often somewhere in the article, you'll find reference to one of the nurses that was attending them spoke that language, right? So there was, I think it was a British guy who woke up speaking Mandarin, and it turns out one of his nurses spoke Mandarin. And so I'm wondering if there's not a parallel here, if there's not a bit of a relationship there where you're not accessing information that's stored in your own memory, but you're accessing information that is most useful for you in the moment. And if we can prove that in any way through remote viewing or through these coma victims who wake up speaking different languages, then I think that might help in other ways as well. Like, I think it's not just relevant to remote viewing. I think it has broader relevance. Yeah, Tamara?
Well, I'm thinking, and let me check with Don. Didn't Tom bring up in the phonetics in the stage 7 that some of it was like, or was that another conference I was in recently? Didn't that
No.
come up, that same idea that lexicon, things that weren't really part of his normal vocabulary?
Well, his talk was that one. What was the phonetics thing? That was where you were naming the target and you were getting phonetics that you would assemble into the name. But I think what Sasha is talking about is sort of like what a lot of remote viewers, including myself, where you just get a word you don't ever.
Yeah, I understood what she was saying, but somebody brought it up in a conference recently. I thought it was Tom, but I guess not if you don't remember it from him bringing it up.
But yeah,
anyway, Sasha, yes. I think there's a lot of validity in what you just said.
Because I know I've had a Turkish word with Turkish spelling come through. I don't speak Turkish. I have no relationship with Turkish. And so, yeah, so I think it might be interesting, because I think if we could figure out what's happening there and maybe ways of improving it through remote viewing practice and protocols, it would be interesting to use it as a method for learning other languages, right, more easily and faster. So it would be something that might be applicable as a practical use for the general public that might get them more interested in remote viewing. I don't know, but that's just something I want to throw out there. And the other thing was about time. And this is more for you, Des, because you were saying you've spoken with these more experienced remote viewers about time and what it is and how it works. And I'm wondering if you've come across the research on time viscosity. There was a Russian researcher who was experimenting with pendulums and energy and temperature and time of year. And he discovered he developed his own theory that time actually has a viscosity, and you can affect its viscosity by altering the energy levels around what it is you're trying to warp. And so he was able to influence how quickly or slowly time was passing around his pendulums based on, I think he was using things like dry ice to cool it down or things like that. Anyway, I'm just wondering if that's something that's ever come up amongst the remote viewers.
Not that I'm aware of, but yeah, if you've got a link to that article, you could chat me at some point. I'd like to read that. That sounds interesting.
So actually, can I ask, how is that different to like general relativity, like in the sense that time changes based on the forces acting on an object? Like I don't understand how that's any different.
Because I think with general relativity, you have to accept that space and time are woven together as a fabric. And so what you're essentially saying is something that's conceptual is somehow woven into something that's tangible. And there's no evidence anywhere that that's actually possible. So you're just taking on faith that space-time can actually exist and act the way it does. Whereas I think with the viscosity of time having to do with energy, you're not asking time itself to be woven in with space. You're just treating it alone. So there are fewer assumptions, right?
That's if you subscribe to the idea that space-time is a fabric, and that Einstein's theory is correct. Have you ever read Dan Winter's work? Dan Winter has a YouTube channel actually with a lot of lectures and stuff on.
A little bit of it, but I was put off by, I don't know, I don't want to be rude, but I was put off by his use of words that I think are inaccurate or wrong. And I think he uses them in an attempt to sound more complicated, more sophisticated, less accessible, so that he sounds really advanced and magical and people can't quite understand, but they really believe. And that kind of put me off. You know, he was talking about phase conjugates of the Mercury in the pyramid shape for meditation. And I don't know, I have problems with that. But maybe I'm just not being fair to him. Maybe I should dig deeper into his work.
His whole concept is essentially that it's ether physics and that everything is charge. Charge rotates, and as it rotates, it has a period. That is effectively time. So as a force acts on that charge or anything, the rotation is slower or faster, hence why it becomes, it changes the way it does.
That's interesting. I think that the subjectivity of time passing, that's the hard part to fit into those theories that are more tangible, that are saying, you know, that it's electric charge. Then you say, okay, well then how is it that subjectivity comes into it? But I will look into his work again.
Yeah.
There's a book, if you can find it, I paid like $80 for it. It's like really tiny book, but it's called The Phoenix Oracle by Dr. Richard Ireland. He was a really amazing psychic, and he talks about some of his experiences in there. And he talks about, I can't remember where he went, but he went to another country which spoke a foreign language that he didn't know, and he spontaneously he started speaking that language while he was there for a short period of time, and then as he left, it kind of like wore away. So I'm sure there's something to it. You know, I'm sure if we really understand how the whole non-local information works, I'm sure it would be possible to learn any language, kind of like in the Matrix, like when they just download something to your brain and you just kind of know it right away. Yes. I'm sure that's probably what it could look like, you know, sometime in the future.
And that's the Phoenix Oracle by Richard Ireland. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
There's also, I don't know, I may as well throw it out there. Have you ever read the Wes Penra papers? Like 7.
Sorry, say that again. The which ones?
Wes Penra. He's produced, I don't know, 7 different papers, about 700 pages long. They go into a lot of things which I guess people in this group might find interesting. But part of that, he talks about regression therapy, and specifically Dr. Michael Newton, I think is the name, where he was an atheist psychiatrist who used to use hypnotherapy to try to take patients back into a point of life of trauma to try to heal them. And then what he found was that people kept referring back to this void or this place that happened before their life. And he found that around about 7,000 of his patients would actually go back to there. And then there was this council that would review their life and then eventually be reincarnated. So sometimes I think that, if you talk about things like this, it could be that the person has maybe already been to that place. Maybe they've learned that other language in a previous life and it's all coming back, or something like this. It's also possible.
Yeah,
That might be
would be, it would be a good reason to master as much as you can in this lifetime so that you can be born a prodigy in the next.
Thanks for that, Sasha. That's great stuff. Don, you have another thing you want to share or ask?
Yeah, this is getting back to CRV, okay? All right, here you go. Stage 4, that's the matrix, right? All right. Seems like it's a huge AOL generator. What am I doing wrong with it? I can have a beautiful session up to that, go into stage 4, and man, I'm making up stuff all over the place.
Really? As you progress through the session, the AOL should be getting less and less on
I
average.
know, so that indicates to me I must be using the tool wrong. So,
I don't know. I'd have to see. I'd have to see what you were doing there, really. Yeah, interesting. I don't know why that might happen.
All right. Naima, do you have any thoughts on that?
It's like coming from S3. So let's say you just did some sketches in S3. The way that I found that helped me kind of get S4 better was I would let's say you label a sketch, X, and now you're doing your S4. Starting in the sensories column, what I find is that, let's say you say something's red, blue, green, and then you move over and you say, has a concept of religious or something like that. It's almost like whatever you probed last, the next probe is usually, for me at least, is usually associated to the last data point. For a while, it was like I was kind of, it was like really disjointed. It was like every time I went for a probe, I was just kind of pulling something out of my ass, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Right,
so
right.
Like
this is where I think I'm at. Yeah. So you're getting more
Yeah.
clumps of
So it's
data
like,
now.
Yeah, I think it's like it's like they're strung together. Once you set your intention on something, it's kind of like feeding you a data stream. As you work through the columns, usually it'll be like associated to the last thing you got. So if you got something in the intangibles column and now you move over to the sensories, usually that sensory is associated to that last data point. That's how I find it working with me. So
Okay.
it took a while to kind of like consciously understand how the data was coming in. Yeah.
All right.
But I definitely know what you mean by it can be kind of like, it could be AOLs if you're not kind of like if you don't know what you're probing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It can be a springboard for wild imagination.
Don, are you keying yourself, or are you starting off with, when you in the stage 4 matrix, start off with like sensory stuff, like, what does it take? I know you've done it in stage 2, but like you're here, so what does it taste like? What does it smell like? And then it should like give you the clusters that you put in.
No.
So start off small. Start off with the sensory stuff that you've already done. So ask yourself questions again, and write the question in brackets or something so you know what you're asking. I'm in stage 4. Okay, I've got some great sketches in stage 3. I'm here again. What does it taste like? So you're almost like restarting the stage 2 thing, but then that kicks the higher things because all the words come in clusters, like Niam said. I usually get in like 5 or 6 word clusters, so it'd be like, oh, it's blue, it's hard, it's irregular, and then I'll get an intangible on the end of it, and I'll go over here to write the intangible.
Okay, all right. I think you sort of like got it right there, because I thought it was like a free form thing, anything goes.
Always start in the stage 2 stuff to kick it off.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That's perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we're coming up on 2 hours now, guys. Is there any last questions or anything anyone wants to share before we round this one up for today? No. Excellent. Well, that's it then. Well, thank you everyone for sharing such great stuff this week. It's been great. Hopefully we'll have something for you next week. I'll see if I can get a guest on. If you've got any suggestions, feel free to do those as well. Send me the suggestions. I'll put the details that we wrote down here about setting up a predictive project for next month that we'll go through as well. So we'll do that as a group, and I'll get all that up on Facebook. And we'll take it from there. We'll see what's going to happen next week. Maybe even get Henny, if she's still here, to talk about her new project she put online today.
Ooh.
Be good.
Cool. Well.
Her moon one. If she's happy to talk a bit about that next week, because I saw that pop online today. That looks quite good as well, the Apollo stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Very nice.
So we'll try to do that, and we'll see what happens next week then, guys, all right?
Okay. Thank you, Daz.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for sharing, everyone. It's been great, and I'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Right.
Take care.
Have a good week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.